संसर्जकता सदक्षो दैव चोदिता. Text 15. उत्तानपादवंशयान्तनस्य तनस्य प्रचेतसां दक्षस्वदिति पुत्री हिरण्याक्षोदिते सुत. Text 16. कल्पारम्भे तदा नास्ति सुतोपतिर्मनोरपि कासौ चेतसो दक्ष क्वदिति कृते सुत.
Text 17 onwards.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, ma'am.
अथ कलद्वयोद्भूतं श्रीवराहस्य चेष्टितम् एकत्रैवाह मैत्रेय्या शठो प्रसन्नो मध्ये मन्वन्तरस्यैव मुनीशपन्मनुं प्रति प्रलयोऽसौ बभूवेति पुराणे क्वचित् ईर्यते. Some more verses are there, Prabhu, or somebody else can read?
No, some more verses.
Okay, Prabhu. Okay, Prabhu. Ayam akashmiko jatas चक्षुषश्यन्तरे मनोः प्रलयः पद्मनाभस्य हयेति च कुत्रचित् सर्वमन्वन्तरस्यन्ते प्रलयो निश्चितं भवेत् विष्णुधर्मोद्धरेत्वेथन् मार्कण्डेयन भाषितम्. हरे कृष्ण प्रभु.
Who is reciting this, Lucas?
I can try, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Please go. Yeah,
Text 21 and 22. Tatahi manamantare parikshine deva manomantare swaraha mahalokam atasadya tistante gata kalmasha manuscha sah sakrena devascha yadunandana brahmalokam prapadyante punan avriti durbalam bhutalam satalam rajra toya rupe maheshwara उर्मी महावेगा सर्वम आवृत्व तिष्ठति भूलोकम आश्रितं सर्वं तदा नश्यति यादव न विनश्यन्ति राजेन्द्र विश्रुतः कुल पर्वतः.
last slide.
Should I continue, Prabhu, or someone would volunteer to read?
If somebody is there, it's fine. Otherwise, can continue.
नौर्भूत्वा तु तदा देवी महायदु कुलोद्वः धारयाति अता बीजानि सर्वाणि एव विशिष्यताम् भविष्याश्च मनुस्तत्र भविष्यारसया तथा तिष्ठन्ति राजसर्दूलां तप्ता ते प्रतिथा भुवि मत्स्य रूपा धरो विष्णु श्रृंगी भूत्वा जगत्पति आकर्षति तु तम नावम स्थानम तु अहलायाम.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Matajis, for reading Lucas. So we are continuing from chapter 3, text 13 onwards. So purport for text 13 of chapter 3, we hear from scripture how Daksha, son of Prachetas, repopulated the universe during the 6th Manvantara. From this account, it is reasonable to conclude that Hiranyaksha was born during that period. So in these verses, today's verses, what we are going to discuss from 13 to 27, author Srila Rupa Goswami is trying to clear confusion for us how there are two different Varaha incarnations. He's taken so many slokas to clarify, because the whole purpose of this book is not only to highlight the various incarnations of the Lord, but also wherever the technicalities are there. So that is to be explained in detail. That is the purpose why Rupa Goswami is he's taken almost more than 10, 12 verses to clarify by taking a proper scriptural references. So Rupa Goswami is very, very particular that wherever possible, he want to ensure that, because Leelavatara Nirupana, that is the chapter, he want to prove the various technicalities of Leelavataras or various incarnations of the Lord. So this verse, in 13th verse, Rupa Goswami is saying, we hear from scripture how Daksha, son of Prachetas, repopulated the universe during the 6th Manvantara. From this account, it is reasonable to conclude that Hiranyaksha was born during that period. See, the basic doubt people, the devotees will get is Daksha was from first Manvantara. The whole episode of Daksha's pastime, like where Virabhadra kills or he cuts off the head of Daksha and puts it in the fire sacrifice. So that episode, that pastime happens in first Manvantara, and during the first Manvantara period. Now, Hiranyaksha was actually born in 6th Manvantara. That is what scriptures are saying. So, from this scriptural references, we can conclude that Hiranyaksha was born during that period. When Hiranyaksha was born during the period of 6th Manvantara, so it means that Lord has killed Hiranyaksha by taking the incarnation of a boar in during the 6th Manvantara period. So that actually creates a confusion between Lord's appearance as a Varaha Avatara in during first Manvantara of this material, this Brahma's period, and this again he appears in the 6th Manvantara. So that is he's trying to clear the confusion from within our mind. So let us see what Rupa Goswami is saying about two different incarnations and what scriptural differences he gives, so that we have clarity of why each period of the first Manvantara and 6th Manvantara, why Lord has appeared in two different times. So this brings us to the 14th verse. As stated in the 4th canto, 4.30.49, Daksha's previous body had been destroyed, but inspired by supreme will, he created all the desired living entities in the Chakshusa Manvantara. So here, Rupa Goswami is trying to establish the fact that Daksha was there even during the first Manvantara, and also he was reborn during the 6th Manvantara period. So Srimad Bhagavatam clarifies that Daksha's previous body had been destroyed, but inspired by supreme will, he created all the desired living entities in Chakshusa Manvantara. So we all know the story of how Daksha was killed. So I'll not go into the detail. But for Virabhadra's episode where Lord Shiva didn't kill Daksha, so he sent Virabhadra, his associate. So Virabhadra has killed all the army of Daksha, and many of great personalities were killed by the Rakshasas, the demons, associates of Lord Shiva. And finally, Daksha Prajapati was hiding behind a pillar near to the fire sacrifice. So he pulled Daksha and he chops off his head and puts that head into the fire sacrifice. So with that, he is ending the episode of Daksha Prajapati. So after that, all the demigods, because at the end of the day, Daksha is a Prajapati, and he has a lot of responsibilities to create a progeny and to take the material creation in the material forward as per instructions of Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma goes along with other demigods to Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, and Vishnu says, you have to go to Shiva because he was the one who instigated all these things. So unless he is pacified, of course, it doesn't mean that Vishnu cannot do anything, but he wanted to end this pastime through Shiva. So all the demigods headed by Brahma, they went to Shiva, Lord Shiva, and Shiva was pacified. He said, okay, that's fine. So I can understand. So I can forgive Daksha Prajapati. Then he orders Virabhadra to bring the body of Daksha Prajapati so that he can bring him back into life. So this is the first Daksha 1.0 during first Manvantara. So his father was Brahma, his wife was Prasuti. He had so many daughters. One of them was Sati. So when Virabhadra brings the body of Daksha Prajapati, that body had no head. Then Shiva asked, where is the head? Then Virabhadra was laughing and he said that I put it in the fire. So now he asked the sages to bring the head of the sacrificial goat, which was kept to sacrifice to the fire sacrificed. So they bring the head of the goat and he fixes the head of the goat. Lord Shiva fixes the head of the goat to Daksha Prajapati and he brings him back to life. Now the problem is with this form, with this body, Daksha Prajapati cannot continue the progeny. So Lord Shiva gives him a boon. Rather, there are different versions that he gives him a boon that time that you will take birth again as a Daksha in the fourth Manu's period, and you will continue the progeny or you continue a responsibility what has been given to you. So at that time, so that's where the first episode, the Daksha 1.0 ends, where he had many children, like Sati was one of them whom Lord Shiva marries, and the whole episode of Daksha Yajna and all this, we know the story. So that was the Daksha's 1.0. So Daksha, he takes birth again in the sixth Manvantara. So according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, Daksha underwent severe penances for next 5 generations of Manvantaras. So each Manvantara is a huge that we'll see very briefly. We'll see the next couple of slides, just for the sake of understanding how long Daksha Prajapati was performing the penances. So he underwent penances, severe penances up to 5th Manvantara. This was as per Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura. Thus, at the beginning of 6th Manvantara, known as Chakshusa Manvantara, Daksha regained his former opulence by the blessings of Lord Shiva. So during this period, he was performing his penances. So as we, just for the sake of recap, I'm sure every one of us knows about Manus. Anyway, the next chapter is very detailed explanation, detailed discussion about Manvantara Avataras. So I'll not go into detail about, just for the sake of understanding, between first Manvantara and 6th Manvantara we are talking about. So just as a brief recap, a brief history about this. By human calculation, the 1,000 ages taken together is the duration of Brahma's 1 day, and such also is the duration of his night. Brahma's 1 day consists of 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. We know about this. In that 1 day, there are 14 Manvantaras. So each day of Brahma is divided into 14 parts, and each part is ruled by Manvantara. And in each Manvantara, there are 71 Chaturyugas. So each yuga again we know this is Satya Treta, Dwapara, and Kali Yuga. So like that 71 Chaturyugas, that will be the lifespan of each Manu. So there will be 14 Manus during one day of Brahma. So the detailed discussion about these Manus will happen the next chapter. The whole of next chapter is about Manvantara Avataras and Yuga Avataras. So we'll discuss further there. So these are the 14 Manus. So Daksha's pastime actually happened initially. Sati's fire sacrifice. She leaves her body, jumping into the fire, and where Veerbhadra kills Daksha. This episode, this pastime happens during Swayambhu Manu's period, the very first Manu. So from there, Swarochi Manu and Uttam Manu, Tamasa Manu, Raivata Manu, and these up to 5, he was under penance, doing tapasya to please the Lord, and Lord gives him the same all his powers to continue his progeny as a Prajapati. So in the 6th Manu's period, that is Chakshusa Manu, Daksha appears or takes birth again. So that is where the second episode or second Daksha's reign will start. So now we are into the 7th Manu's period, Vaivashuta Manu. So after that we have still so many Manus to complete the day of Brahma. So that is all these things we'll discuss in the next chapter. So in verse 15, Prachetas were descendants of Uttanapada, and Daksha was their son. So now we are talking about Daksha 2.0, the second generation or second birth of Daksha. So who are these Prachetas? So we'll not go in detail as we would have discussed or we heard in Srimad Bhagavatam about Prachetas in detail. So Prachetas were descendants of Uttanapada, and Daksha was their son. Hiranyaksha was the son of Diti, daughter of Daksha. So this is where Hiranyaksha coming into the picture, whom the boar incarnation of the Lord kills. The second boar incarnation of the Lord kills. So to understand the second boar incarnation, we are discussing all this background of Daksha Prajapati. So Daksha 2.0. So this is during 6th Manvantara. So his father were 10 Prachetas and mother was Marisha, and he had 2 wives, Asikni and Virini. He had 10,000 sons in the first lot and another 10,000 sons in the second lot. So when I say first lot, second lot, just those who read about this pastime from in Srimad Bhagavatam, they can recollect that when because Daksha's whole responsibility was to increase the progeny. So during that process, in his second innings, the Daksha 2.0, so he started creating progeny, and in the first lot, he had 10,000 sons. They are called Haryasvas. So these Haryasvas, as per Daksha's father's instruction, they went away and they started doing tapasya to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana, so that they can get the power to engage in the progeny as started by Daksha Prajapati. But that time Narada Maharshi comes and preaches them that no, your aim should be Bhakti Yoga. Don't waste your time in all this sense gratification, the progeny and all. So your aim should be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So you give up all these things, and so he preaches them. They attracted towards the preaching of sage Narada, and they give up this response, or they tell their father that no, we cannot do this anymore. So we'll continue, we'll do tapasya and engage our whole of our lives into the devotion, serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they gives up. So Daksha, he again had another 10,000 lot, second lot of children. They are called Savalaswas. So even Sage Narada attracts them, or from perspective of Daksha, distracts them from creating a progeny. So Sage Narada takes them away from this process and engages them in the devotional service. So they also give up. That was a time when Daksha Prajapati curses Sage Narada to that he will not have any place to stay. Always he will be roaming around. That curse, Narada Maharshi converts into a blessing, and he always spreads the holy name of the Lord, always traveling throughout three worlds of this material world. So that was Daksha's second innings, and he had so many daughters. The third lot, he had so many daughters. Through daughters, he wanted to continue the progeny. So there, in that process, he had Aditi. Those two are very famous. Aditi was the mother of all the demigods. Aditi was mother of all the demons and rakshasas. So Diti was mother of Hiranyakashipu. So that is where our whole discussion is getting diverted to. So these are the prachetas, the 10 prachetas. There is a long story. I'll not go into that. Srimad Bhagavatam very clearly explains about this. So we'll not discuss about this at this stage. So these 10 prachetas by taking blessings of Lord Shiva, they were involved, engaged in the progeny of this material world. So in that process, Daksha takes birth in their family. So this is where it is Uttanapada's lineage, Prachina Barhi. This also, Prachina Barhi also we discussed, or we read, we heard a lot about the Prachina Barhi also in Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll not go into that detail. And Prachina Barhi's sons, children were Prachetas, 10 children. Together they are called Prachetas. And son of Prachetas was Daksha 2.0. He takes a rebirth. From first Manvantara, he ends his pastime, and he continues that pastime of creation, engaging in the progeny. So he continues again in the sixth Manvantara period by taking birth in the family of Prachetas. And Daksha's daughter, one of the daughters was Diti, and Diti gives birth to Hiranyaksha. So this Hiranyaksha was the one who was killed by Supreme Lord in the form of a boar. So in verse 16, in the beginning of Brahma's day, Manu did not. So this is Rupa Goswami is further clarifying. He's not just giving up. He's trying to establish the truth that there are two Varaha incarnations, and these two are two different. He want to avoid any sort of confusion in the minds of readers. So he's giving more clarity and more scriptural references. So, and at times he is also adding a logic. Logically, he's trying to prove the fact also. So he says in the verse 16, in the beginning of Brahma's day, Manu did not yet have any offspring. So how could Daksha, son of Prachetas, be present? And how then could Diti or Diti's son be present? So Diti was not there during first Manvantara's period. And when this Daksha's pastime happened, Manu did not have any offspring. So how could Daksha, the son of Prachetas, be present that time? And how Diti or Diti's son, Hiranyaksha, would present during the first Manvantara's period? So the Lord, when he appeared in the first Manvantara period as a boar, definitely he has not killed Hiranyaksha during that time. So that was the fact he is trying to establish through the logic. So we thus conclude that Sri Varaha enacts this pastime at two different times, and that Maitreya combined incidents from both of the histories in his answer to Vidura's questions. So that was the pastime happens in verse 17. So verse 17, he is establishing the fact that these two Varaha incarnations are they happened 2 different times. One was during the first Manvantara period, and Daksha was there both the times. But Daksha's lineage was not there, or Hiranyakashipu was not there. Hiranyaksha was not there during first Manvantara period. So Lord appeared again during 6 Manvantara period to kill Hiranyaksha. So that is a fact which author Rupa Goswami is trying to establish. So here the purport is explained that in the initial narration of Lord Varaha's appearance, in the third canto, Maitreya Muni did not distinguish between two Varahas, even though he described the incidents from the pastimes of both of them. In the 13th chapter of that canto, Maitreya described how Lord Varaha lifted the earth out of Garbha ocean. He mentioned in text 31-32 of that chapter that Varahadeva also easily disposed of a demon who attacked him when he came out of the water. At the beginning of 14th chapter, Vidura asked to hear more about the killing of the demon, whom he identified as Hiranyaksha. So this episode was killing of Hiranyaksha's episode, last time, happened during 6th Manvantara period. So that is what Srila Rupa Goswami is trying to establish. Now, in verse 18, some Puranas mention an annihilation of universe that occurs in the middle of Manvantara because of Manus being cursed by a sage. Now, question comes, both places in the first Manvantara period, when the Lord appears as a boar, we discussed in last class that Earth was slipped out from the its origin, and it slipped down and it went into the water. So now the question may come, annihilation was not happening. So how come Earth could lost his way and it slipped into the water? So this here is where Rupa Goswami is giving clarification that some Puranas mention an annihilation of the universe that occurs in the middle of Manvantara because of Manus being cursed by a sage. So there is a different versions of this particular pastime, but for now we'll just understand that because of curse of the Swayambhu Manu by a sage during his period, the first Manu's period. So there was, because of his curse, sage curse, there was annihilation taken place, and that time Earth slipped from its orbit, and Lord had appeared as Varaha and he lifted. That was in verse 18 it is mentioned, and in verse 19 this exceptional occurrence happened during the reign of Chakshus Manu also actually. At other times Lord Padmanabha has personally enacted the pastime of universal annihilation. So in the purport, author explains very clearly that it may be asked why Lord Varaha had to rescue the earth in the middle of the first Manvantara, long before the scheduled devastation of the lower part of the universe. So usually, we know that at the every night of Brahma there will be devastation. Now we are not talking about the night of Brahma. We are not even talking about the night of or end of Manu's period. At the end of Manu's period, also there is mini devastation takes place. But now we are not even talking about end of Manu's period. We are talking about during the mid of Manu's period. So this is what author is raising a point here. It may be asked why Lord Varaha had to rescue the earth in the middle of the first Manvantara, long before the scheduled devastation of lower part of the universe. As indicated here, special circumstances sometimes lead to a universal flood during a Manvantara period. So what is special circumstances? We just saw in the previous sloka that the curse by a sage to Swayambhu Manu during the first Manvantara period, so that annihilation taken place. So he could not perform his duties properly, and that led to annihilation, mini annihilation. So the Matsya Purana relates. So here is where Rupa Goswami is giving scriptural references. Matsya Purana relates that Swayambhu Manu was once cursed by Agastya Muni. So now we are talking about the first Manu, Swayambhu Manu. Swayambhu Manu was once cursed by Agastya Muni to have the worlds inundated during his reign. When the earth was thus lost in the water, God Varaha appeared and lifted her out. So this was the past time why Lord appeared as a Varaha Avtara, as Lila Avtara during the first Manvantara period. Though there was no demon there, Hiranyaksha was not there, where Lord didn't appear to kill Hiranyaksha, but he appeared to lift the earth from the ocean because of the curse, Agastya Muni's curse to Swayambhu Manu, that our whole creation, our universe will get into to have the worlds inundated during this rain. The whole earth will go underwater. So that was the curse by Agastya Muni. So to lift the earth from the water, the Lord appeared as a Varaha and did that pastime during the first Swayambhu Manu period. So when the earth was thus lost in the water, Lord Varaha appeared and lifted her out. The sixth Manvantara, Chakshusa Manu was similarly cursed. So that time, Hiranyaksha's pastime actually happened. It is not because of Hiranyaksha's this one earth went into, but it was a curse to Chakshusa Manu by one of the sage that this pastime happened, and Hiranyaksha happened to be a reason for. He was only instrument to take that earth into the water. So according to Vishnu Dharmottara and other Puranas, however, the flood at that time was due to Supreme Lord's desire. So there are two different versions. Maybe it happened in different kalpas or different Manu's period. We are not sure. So there is two different scriptures. Matsya Purana says one, and according to Vishnu Dharmottara and other Puranas, however, the flood the second time it happened due to Supreme Lord's desire. So the Lord wanted that to happen, and that the annihilation kind of a thing taken place, and he appeared and he put the earth back into its orbit and killed Hiranyaksha. So in verse 20, in the Vishnu Dharmottara Purana 175, 2 and 3, Markandeya states that the universe is certainly annihilated at the end of each, not each universe, each Manvantara it is. So Markandeya states that the universe is certainly annihilated at the end of each Manvantara. So we know that at the end of each night of Brahma, there is a mini annihilation takes place because Brahma goes into sleep and a small annihilation takes place. And only three words, Triloka, all this up to Swargaloka will be annihilated, and people of some demigods and all from Swargaloka, they go to higher planetary systems. That also we are going to cover in coming slides. Very interesting, and it is it actually raises so many doubts within us that this can happen, even this can happen like that. But this is what Rupa Goswami is clarifying. We are going to see in the coming slides. Very interesting information Rupa Goswami is giving to us. So there will be a mini annihilation at the end of each Manvantara also, because that is a process, like it is a Sandhikala, you can say, handing over process between one Manu to another Manu. So everything will be closed, and all the accounts are closed. So at the end of the accounting period, the balance sheet is prepared and everything is done. Then it will hand over to the next Manu. So that mid of between two Manus, there will be a mini annihilation takes place, so that stock taking will be easy for both the Manus. So he can easily hand over to the next Manu. So that was the intention. So that was in verse 20. So it's clarified in the purport that Lord Vara appeared during two different Manvantaras to lift the earth out of the water of devastation. Although the lower part of the universe also flood at the end of every Manvantara, at those times the earth does not sink. So this is very interesting information Rupa Goswami is giving, that between the two Manvantara periods, the earth will not sink into the devastating water, but it floats. It floats unseen on the surface of the turbulent water. So it floats, but it cannot be seen. So it is achintya, so very difficult to comprehend. But certain things are beyond logical understanding of our senses. So probably there is no one to see because everyone will be would have got annihilated. So that's why it is called unseen on the surface of the turbulent water. So that was in verse 20. So in verse 21 and 22, at the end of Manu's reign, the demigods, this is very interesting information. This is what I was talking about. The demigods who presided during his Manvantara go in a purified condition to Maharloka. Because where the demigods are residing, they are residing in Svargaloka. So at the end of Manu's period, so Sandhikala is there, where one Manu's lifespan, the 71 Chaturvigas is finishing, and next 71 Chaturvigas are starting. That means the next day of Brahma. So that time, the demigods who presided during his Manvantara go into purified condition to Maharloka, where they remain for some time. Manu, Indra, and their company of demigods then achieve Brahmaloka. O Yadunandana, from where one really returns to material life. So at the end of Manu's period, Manu, along with Manu and Indra and other demigods, they all actually go to higher planetary systems, because up to Svargaloka everything is devastated, and they go to higher planetary system. Then they first actually they'll go to Maharloka. From there they'll eventually reach Brahmaloka. And this particular pastime is more clearly explained in Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Sanatana Goswami. Those who have read can recollect this pastime, this episode. So we'll not go into that detail now. So for now, we understand that Manu, Indra, and the company of demigods, eventually they can go up to Brahmaloka. So one question may come here that we thought earlier that when Svargaloka is annihilated, Indra's lifespan is finished, and Indra will leave the body, and next one more Jiva will take up the position of Indra during the next day of Brahma. But here there is a very interesting information is being given that sometimes it may happen that the Manu, Indra, and their company of demigods, they can go up to Brahmaloka. So what they will do in Brahmaloka and what will be their lifespan? Very interesting information, very interesting point being highlighted by Rupa Goswami. Here it is mentioned that at the end of Manvantara is also end of the term of authority for Indra and other demigods. They do not die at this time. So it is Rupa Goswami is mentioning that Indra and Manu, they are not leaving the body. They are not. They do not die at this time, but they have to vacate Svargaloka, because this is now when when we lost job, when we lose jobs in wherever we are working, whichever country we are working, so we have to vacate the house, we have to vacate the country, and we have to cancel the visa and go back to our place. So that exactly what Indra and other demigods they do. They have to vacate Svargaloka. So they, because their contract is finished, so then they'll vacate the Svargaloka and they'll proceed further. So where they will go is explained here. They first go to the higher planet Maharloka, and from there the highest planet of the universe, Brahmaloka or Satyaloka. So eventually they go to Satyaloka, and what they will do there, and what will happen to their lifespan, how long they will live. See, anyone who goes to Brahmaloka or any other higher planetary system above Svargaloka, they will live till that Loka is annihilated. Means that the highest personality of that Loka is giving up the body. So in this case, they live till Lord Brahma lifespan. So one way it is a severe punishment Whereas the people who take birth in this material world, they have an opportunity that at the end of this life itself, we can go back to go back home, back to Godhead. But those who are all these, Manu, Indra, and other demigods, Rupa Goswami explained that they go to Brahmaloka, and it's explained there that they will reside there till Brahma's lifespan. So this is a kind of what a punishment it is for them, that Brahma's lifespan is some trillions of years, and whereas we have an opportunity in this material world that we can go back at the end of this life. Whereas they reach Brahmaloka, they have to be there till end of Brahma's lifespan. Of course, they will be doing devotion service there, but still they are part of this material world only. So it is explained here that generally for those who must die, even for those who die while facing an enemy in battle, achievement of this realm of Lord Brahma is very rare. And even if some do achieve it, they cannot remain very long. When their good karma dissipates, they must return to the lower worlds. As Sri Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punar Avartuno Arjuna. So here the very interesting statement Rupa Goswami is making, and the author Gopiparananda, His Grace Gopiparananda Prabhu is making, is the Indra and other demigods, Manus. So all these people, when they go to Brahmaloka, what will be their position? So he uses a very interesting word. He says that the retired Indra and other appointed demigods, however, can remain on Satyaloka for the rest of Brahma's life, and then they attain liberation along with him. So the retired Indra. So a very interesting point, interesting statement author is making. The retired Indra and other demigods. So he's no more Indra. He's got retired from his position. So he is not dying. He's taken a retirement, or rather, he is forcefully he has to take the retirement because his contract is finished. So he will go to higher planetary systems, and rather he will be kicked up to higher planetary systems. And they, as a retired personality, he spends his rest of the time in Brahmaloka and can remain there on Satyaloka for the rest of Brahma's life, and then may attain liberation. One way, if you see, this is a great punishment, because they remain there till end of Brahma's lifespan. So whereas people in material, in earthly planet, they have an opportunity that within the fraction of the Brahma's time, they have an opportunity to go back to spiritual world. But it is a particular pastime we are discussing, that even in Brahmaloka, they are not sitting idle. They are engaged in the devotional service, and they are worshipping directly Garbhodaksha Vishnu personally, along with Lord Brahma. So when the universe is dissolved, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is explains, Sridhar Swami explains in Srimad commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, that when the universe is dissolved at the end of Brahma's life, all of them, if they have perfected their lives, enter the supreme abode along with Brahma. So all these retired people, including Manu, Indra, and all the other demigods, they got retired from their duties of the demigods. They stay with Brahma in his abode, and when the universe is dissolved at the end of Brahma's life, all of them, if they have perfected their life, so still they have an opportunity in Brahmaloka to perfect their life, to practice devotional service and perfect their life. So if they become qualified, they will go back to spiritual world along with the Brahma. Otherwise, from there they will come down to earthly planet during the next day of Brahma. So this is where now we see where so up to Svargaloka it is annihilated, and they go to Maharloka, and finally they go to Satyaloka and they stay here. All the retired people from Svargaloka will be sitting here, and you just imagine every Manu's period, because Manu will be like every day of Brahma, there are so many Manus are coming, and like 14 Manus are there each. So every day of Brahma, how many Manus are going to Satyaloka, and how many retired people are going to Satyaloka? So all these people are getting assembled there, and how many of them will go to spiritual world? That is very achintya to think and understand. But Rupa Goswami is very clearly highlighting that it is what happens. So in verse 24, just another 10 minutes we'll close. So Vajra, the Supreme Lord then assumes a form of water and covers earth and subterranean planets, wearing waves as his garlands. The powerful Lord covers everything. At that time, everything in Bhurloka is destroyed, O Yadava. Only the well-known principal mountains are not destroyed, O King of Kings. So this is Markandeya Rishi is explaining this to Vajra, who is a grandson of great grandson of Lord Krishna when he appears in this material world. So this particular discussion happens in Vishnu Dharmottara Purana. So there, Markandeya Rishi is explaining that when all this end of Brahma's day, so all these three worlds are annihilated. Everything in Bhurloka is destroyed, and Lord takes the form of water because it is a devastation water. Devastation water means something which anybody else cannot handle this devastation. So Lord himself takes the form of devastation water. He assumes the form of devastation water and covers the entire earth and all the planets. And wearing waves as garlands, the powerful Lord covers everything and completely destroyed. So this is explained in verse 23 and 24. Now in 25 to 27, this is the last batch of slokas for this session. O hero of Yadu clan, the goddess Earth then assumes the form of a boat and carries the seeds, every species of life. O Lion of Kings, the future Manu and 7 sages will assume their positions on the earth, take their place on this boat. Vishnu, the Lord of Universe, assumes in the form of a fish, not sorry, the Finnish is the Lord form of a fish with a horn on his head, and he enjoys the pastime of pulling the boat from one place to another. This is explained in Vishnu Dharmottara Purana 175, 9 to 12. So this is where when Manu the period ends, what happens is the earth takes the form of a boat. Mother Earth takes the form of a boat and carries the seeds of every species of life. So the boat is the size of the boat we cannot imagine, though we might have seen the pictures. Like this picture, we see Manu and along with the 7 sages, where the Lord in the form of a fish, horn on his head, pulls the boat. Boat is none other than Mother Earth, and in that boat, the next Manu, the future Manu, the retired Manu is gone already. The Manu who got retired is already gone to Brahmaloka, and the new Manu, along with the 7 sages, they sit in this boat along with the seeds of every species of life. So Mother Earth carries into the boat, and it moves from one place to another till the next Manu's next day of Brahma. Not even next day of Brahma, it is the next Manu's period. It starts. So till then, Mother Earth in the form of boat, she will be carried by Lord in the form of a Matsya Avatara. So from verse 28 onwards, we are going to discuss very interesting and beautiful information about Matsya Avatara is covered by Rupa Goswami. We are going to discuss that. So this particular pastime of pulling this boat, this is again beyond our imagination, wherein the every seed of every species. So as a sample, Mother Earth carries so that Manu can continue his progeny is next, because Manu will be ruling the world when the next Manu takes over. So with the help of 7 sages, so everything is there in that boat. So they will continue their next Manu will continue his duty when his period starts. So that is end of today's discussion. So do we have any questions or comments? We have a couple of more minutes time left. Sudarshan Prabhu.
Prabhuji, the Varaha Avatar, it comes once in a Manvantara.
Prabhu, come again. Varaha
Varaha Avatar will come once in a Manvantara.
Not necessarily, Prabhu. Not necessarily, because it is mentioned here that first Manvantara he came and sixth Manvantara he came.
Achha, it's not necessary for that.
Not necessary.
It
It is a Leela Avatara. Leela Avataras actually happens when the particular Leela takes place. This Leela took place 2 times during this period. The first Manvantara period it takes place, and again it doesn't mean that every time the first Manvantara period, the next batch of next day of Brahma when he starts first Manvantara period he will come. No, it may or may not happen. But 6 Manvantara period it may happen because of the pastime of killing Hiranyaksha takes place. First Manvantara period it happens only because of the curse of the stage. Otherwise, Leela Avataras may or may not happen in every Manvantara.
Another Prabhu, Prachetas were the Diti's son, to whom Indra was trying to kill, and then they become 49 pieces when they are born. So Indra has took them together. Now we have mentioned here 10 Prachetas. So they are the different one or same one from same one?
Prachetas are not Diti's children. Prachetas are Diti's grandfathers.
Diti's grandfather. This is a different one.
Pracheta's son is Daksha. Daksha's daughter is Diti. Diti's son is Hiranyaksha. Okay.
So then what we are reading in a 6th canto, that after when they both of the Hiranyaksha and they were died, then she has done one tapasya, and then Kashyap has been given, okay, you do the tapasya for 1 year. She did one tapasya, and then after that she got pregnant, and Indra thought that wants to kill him again because he was afraid. Then she did a mistake, and Indra entered the womb, and he tried to kill them. And there are 49 pieces he killed, but realized that he's not able to kill them.
I don't think that is anything to do with the Prachetas. Prachetas, they are different.
Because their name also Pracheta. They also Pracheta. That's why I was confused with them. Their name is also Pracheta. They are 49. Indra took to them with them. Maybe the different one, maybe. So their name also was Pracheta. Yeah, Prabhu. Okay, Prabhu. I was a little confused with this. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Janki Mataji?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Pranam. Prabhuji, you saw that slide, 14 planetary systems. So in that slide, there's higher planetary, middle planetary, and lower planetary. In bracket, you written in a lower planetary, subtle and gross. Only gross. Lower planetary.
Lower planetary is a gross. Middle is a subtle and gross.
Subtle and gross. And higher planetary only subtle. So this is the body. Jiva has that type of body.
I'm not very sure, Mataji, because this one I didn't notice that. I need to check that, and I'll check and come back.
Okay, Prabhuji. So this is the first time I also noticed, Prabhuji. I saw so many times, but the first time I strike on that particular words. Okay, Prabhuji.
Radhakrishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu. Thank you for wonderful class, Prabhu. But it was completely bounced. It is very difficult to understand with the logic. I just wanted to check, Prabhu, like you said that Varahadev has appeared during Swayambhu Manu, and then he brings back the earth into the orbit. And then he killed Hiranyaksha during, I think, Vaivasvata Manu. Yeah, 6th Manu.
Chakshusa Manu. Vaivasvata Manu is a present Manu.
Okay, that is one Manvantara before he appeared and he killed Hiranyaksha. So and then Manu got a curse, so that's why the earth went into Garbha ocean. So the Swayambhu Manu is the first Manu of Brahma's first day of Brahma, no Prabhu? It is like
every day of Brahma, there will be 14 Manus are there.
Yeah, that is understood, Prabhu. But Swayambhu Manu is the first Manu of first day of Brahma, or
No,
every day
how can
of
you say
Brahma?
first day? First day of Brahma, which first day of Brahma? Because every day there will be
When he born, when he created of that first day after he got all the knowledge from Narayana, like no, and then he started
start with Swayambhu Manu. Start with Swayambhu Manu.
So
first
this
day of Brahma, next day of Brahma, third day of Brahma, every day of Brahma there will be Swayambhu Manu.
Oh, every day Brahma there will be Swayambhu Manu. Okay.
Because every day is divided into 14 parts.
Correct.
And every day of Brahma there will be 14 Manus, one after other.
Okay,
so which day of Brahma we don't know. It is one of the days of Brahma.
You mean Swayambhu Manu?
Swayambhu Manu. So every day there will be Swayambhu Manu. Every day there will be Chakshus Manu. Every day there will be Vaivasvata Manu. No, we are into Vaivasvata of one of the days of Brahma.
Okay. So in that Chaturyuga,
it is very simple, very clear that Brahma's 360 days of a year, each day is ruled by 14 Manus, divided into 14 parts, and each part is ruled by one Manu, and there are 14 Manus as we saw the names. And this Daksha's pastime, whatever happened, Daksha Yajna, it happened, Shiva, Veerabhadra killed Daksha. That happened during Swayambhu Manu's period. That is the first Swayambhu Manu of one of the days of Brahma. Which day we don't know. It could have happened the very first day of Brahma or one of the days of because Brahma is now 50 years old. So 51 years is going on. Out of 51 years, there are so many Swayambhu Manus would have come and gone. The Manus are like they are coming and going as per the breathing and exhaling, inhaling of Lord. So many Swayambhu Manus are coming and going. So one of the Swayambhu Manus period, this happened. And first Swayambhu Manu's period, Daksha's episode started, and sixth Manu's period, Chakshus Manu's period, he appears again. So it is very simple. The whole episode, the whole today's discussion, we are trying to understand by using a different, not even logics, different scriptural differences. Rupa Goswami is trying to establish the truth. Otherwise, the truth is that there are two Varahas, and first Varaha was during first Manu's period, and second Varaha was on a sixth Manu's period. First is the Swayambhu Manu, and sixth is the Chakshusa Manu. So Lord Varaha appeared 2 times. That fact, to establish that truth, he has given so many scriptural references. Otherwise, there is nothing to confuse.
So it means that in Vaivasvata Manu's time, whatever we are hearing about Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, that is in 5th Manvantara. Like no 6th Manvantara, there is nothing like that happened. You mean? Okay. And then Prabhu, you said every Chaturyuga there will be small devastation, and during 6th Manvantara there is a little bit bigger devastation, and then at the end of Brahma
period, no? Manu, at the end of every Manu's period, there will be devastation, there will be annihilation. That is where the Mother Earth takes the form of a boat and carries the next Manu along with the sages. So there will be devastation, but Earth will be floating. Earth will be floating again in the form of a boat, which no one can see. So there will be devastation at the end of each Manu.
So the major devastation is after 6th Manvantara. I mean.
No. Every Manvantara, at the end of every Manu's period.
Every Manvantara there is a devastation. Okay.
And at the end of in the day of Brahma there are 14 Manus. No, at the end of each Manu's period there will be a mini devastation. But we saw that even between the Manu's period also there is some devastations and special circumstances like curse of Agastya Muni. We saw that is between the Manu's period. Swayambhu Manu got cursed, and the first the Chakshusa Muni got cursed. That is in between. But at the end of every Manu's period, there is a devastation. That means that 14 Manus in a day. But when Brahma sleeps, the 14th Manu, at the end of 14th Manu, that will be bigger devastation because Brahma goes to sleep. 14th Manu and Brahma sleep will coincide together. So 14th Manu will go and Brahma will sleep. Now what happens to night of Brahma? There will be again 12 hours day, 12 hours night. Will there be any Manus during the night of Brahma? Will there be any Kali Yuga and the Dwapara Yuga and all these yugas are there during the night of Brahma?
No, no, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So there won't be any, there is a vacuum, it's complete vacuum, no Manus are there. Manus are there during only 12 hours of Brahma. So that is the 14th Manu, when he ends his time, the 17 Yuga finishes during his period, that is Brahma goes into sleep. When Brahma goes into sleep, that will be a bigger devastation than other 13 Manus period. So because Brahma also goes into sleep. So then there will be complete another 12 hours of Brahma's time. Then nothing is there. And when Brahma wakes up, then again the again cycle starts. Then the first day of Brahma, there will be again first Swayambhu Manu will come and all this cycle starts. So it is bit bewildering to understand, but it is very, very clear, very logical. If you divide into each day of Brahma and each day is 14 Manus, and every Manu there will be mini tsunami is there, and at the end of 14th Manu there will be a bigger tsunami is there since Brahma goes sleep. And when Brahma's 100 years finish, there will be complete devastation. The whole creation is gone, including Satyaloka. Otherwise, only 3 lokas only will be annihilated.
Yeah, understood, Prabhu. But the query why I ask you this is like, no, Lord has his fixed pastime, like, no, to like, no, to have like, no, the demons killed by Lord, like, no, in every yuga, like Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakishipu, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, Shishupala, Dandavakra. So this has to happen in every yuga, like, no, in Chatur Yuga. So how like, no, the earth gone, and then on the 5th only the Hiranyaksha appeared. So it means from 1st to 4th there is no pastime, or it is not recorded. Probably Rupa Goswami has not mentioned. This is why I asked all this question too. But anyhow, bro, I think it is difficult.
Let me clarify that the past. This we discussed in the previous classes also that the pastime of
last
Lord
class I missed, Prabhu. I was traveling from India to Dubai. So
not last class. The previous classes that the pastime of Lord killing Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu. They are not Jayavijas every time. So
yeah, you told me, Prabhu, that you have told in the past. It is some jiva who take that place and then they kill. So this pastime is going to happen, but it may not be Jayavija.
At the end of the day, one has to understand that Leela Avtaras are only Leelas, pastimes. It is not may or may not be fixed every time. Yuga Avtaras may happen, but the Leela Avtaras are not fixed. They are purely pastime of the Lord. Whenever he wants to perform the pastime, he will come and do that. So it may or may not happen.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, so Udarshan Prabhu, still your hand is still raised. Anything?
No, Prabhu. Sorry. Thank you.
So thank
Prabhuji,
you,
if you don't mind, I have one last question.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, in the Chatur Yuga, this is what I heard in some satsanga, like, no, some of the Maharaj was explaining it. I don't remember from where I heard, but then it has been said that in Chatur Yuga, it starts with Satya Yuga. In our Chatur Yuga, it is like Satya Yuga, then Treta Yuga, then Dwapara, and then Kali. But otherwise, in general, it is Satya, Dwapara, Treta, and Kali. Is it correct, Prabhu? Or
correct, Prabhu. It is true. So even the name itself denotes, no. Dwapara means second, Treta means third. That itself indicates. But in our particular cycle, it got reversed. So Treta went second, Dwapara came next because this time because of Lord Chaitanya.
Okay. So in the 28th cycle, it means it happens like this, Prabhu? I mean, when the Lord himself comes.
So in that particular cycle, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes in Kali Yuga and Krishna comes in Dwapara Yuga. So these two happens together.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
So thank you very much, the devotees, for patiently attending, listening to today's class. If we have further any questions, comments, you can post it in the group. So I'm stopping the recording here.